So it looks like a military strike against Iran is becoming more and more likely by the day. And the little Houthi missile attack into Israel just a few hours ago didn't help things. Now, earlier today, the Houthis launched a ballistic missile that impacted just outside Ben Gurion Airport. The last I saw was 8 people were wounded. Fortunately, nobody was killed as it impacted about 300 meters away from a terminal. We do have more information now from the IDF reporting that they actually missed this missile. They were trying to intercept it and weren't able to. There was a technical malfunction with the Arrow interceptor, and then the THAAD system was there, attempted to engage, but the interceptor missed its target, which should just be a reminder for everybody that no air defense system is perfect. Things get through, so we kind of take for granted when there's such a high success rate, like Israel has seen, 95+% shooting down Houthi munitions. Every so often, something gets through. That's just how this works, and that's what happened earlier today. The response has been a pretty significant call to go after not just the Houthis, but Iran. Right after the missile strike, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a statement saying, quote, "We, along with the entire world, are under threat from the Houthis. We will not tolerate it, and we will take very strong retaliatory action against them. We will always remember that they acted under the orders and with the support of their patron, Iran. We will do what needs to be done to deliver a proper warning to Iran that we cannot tolerate such acts." Which, listen, this is pretty normal. We've heard this for a long time, for years and years and years, is that all of these proxy forces, yes, they're a nuisance, they're a problem, no doubt, and they have pretty significant capabilities. The real problem, the head of the snake, is Iran. So that talk is nothing new, but they're kind of playing off of a statement from President Trump just a couple weeks ago. You'll see a couple people pointing to this, kind of suggesting that this time might be coming due pretty soon here. On March 17th, President Trump put out a statement on Truth Social that we covered on this channel saying, quote, "Let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks made by the Houthis, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. Any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that the force will stop there. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire." Now, to be fair, that was issued back on March 17th. Since then, there's been approximately 15 attacks by the Houthis carried out against U.S. warships in the Red Sea, and at least 17 or 18 attacks directed towards Israel. This is the first one that we've seen so far that's actually made it through air defense networks. But nonetheless, the Houthis did not stop with that threat from President Trump. And if Iran has the ability, they definitely have influence, but if they have the ability to force the Houthis to stop launching these munitions, they didn't take that seriously either. Now, Netanyahu went to this statement immediately earlier today and quoted it back out, showing like, hey, remember President Trump, when you said this, that Iran is responsible? We agree. He said, President Trump is absolutely right. Attacks by the Houthis emanate from Iran. Israel will respond to the Houthi attack against our main airport and, at a time and place of our choosing, to their Iranian terror masters. Again, it's just words. We're just seeing a lot start to come together, a lot of open threats against Iran with, how do you look at Trump's statement there? It's kind of laying down a red line, right? Every Houthi attack is going to be viewed as an attack carried out by Iran, and the Houthis aren't stopping. So that's 14, 17, 18, 31, 32 attacks by, Iran in the last couple weeks. Then this isn't just statements coming out of Israel, because Israel may or may not go about doing this on their own. We will talk about that here in a moment. But U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, also quoted that same exact Trump quote, saying, Israel hit today by ballistic missiles from Iran-backed Houthis. President Trump said it best, and then, of course, pointed to that Trump statement that every shot fired by the Houthis is a shot fired by Iran. And just a couple days ago, this one kind of out of the blue, like it fits the larger picture, but it didn't follow a specific event. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth posted, quote, message to Iran. We see your lethal support to the Houthis. We know exactly what you were doing. You know very well what the U.S. military is capable of, and you were warned. You will pay the consequence at the time and place of our choosing. Now, when I say that, I mean, we've had Operation Rough Rider has been continuous for going, 40 plus days now. We've been carrying out strikes against the Houthis in Yemen. So it's not like this was completely out of the blue. And that is in line with what Secretary Hegseth has said for a long time. So it's not surprising It's just not directly following an attack or a specific event that we know of publicly, whereas the Netanyahu and Huckabee statements followed that Houthi attack earlier today. Now, in response to this, we are starting to see some answers from Iran. Their defense minister told state TV earlier today, quote, "If Iran is attacked and a war is imposed on us, we will respond strongly." When he asked about threats to attack Iran, he said, quote, U.S. threats to target Iran, he said, quote, "We will target their bases and their interests. We will see no limits." Again, it's just words, but we should remember with any situation here with Iran, it's not really a concern that Iran would conduct an attack against the United States. It's that we have a lot of military bases across the Middle East that would be susceptible to Iranian attack. Plenty of air defense capabilities throughout the Middle East as well, but they could be overwhelmed. These are not major installations we have in a lot of locations, especially when you're looking at portions of Iraq and some in Syria. But the attack to our friends and allies in the Middle East could be severe. They also announced just today, I'm sure just a complete coincidence, the Iranians unveiled a new solid fuel ballistic missile, and this is quoting directly from their state media, so we're going to get the full propaganda value start to finish. They say this is called the Qasim Basir. The missile has a range of 1,200 kilometers and can, quote, easily overcome THAAD and Patriot missile defense systems thanks to its upgraded maneuverability. Iran's defense minister, can't say that name, said the missile was upgraded after Israel intercepted Iranian ballistic missiles during the April and October 2024 attacks. With the new upgrade, he said Israel won't be able to intercept more than 5 missiles out of 200. He said this latest upgraded missile has been added to all Iranian underground missile bases. You know, we should expect that Iran and everybody else is adjusting their munitions as they go. The idea that they went from, barely less than a year ago, from all of their missiles being intercepted, almost all of them being intercepted, to saying none of them can be, that's a jump in missile technology that's probably unrealistic. So again, the Iranians, just like the Israelis and just like the United States, learned about Iranian munitions during those attacks. The Iranians certainly learned about the Israeli air defenses as well, made some modifications. To think that they all of a sudden made all of these missiles immune to THAAD and Patriot is probably a bit of a stretch. But nonetheless, we are seeing some posturing from Iran. Now, this is all happening amidst the ongoing U.S.-Iran nuclear talks, which are not actually happening right now. They're kind of on pause, maybe. Iran said there was a technical glitch, so they're not talking right now. The U.S. response was, what are you talking about? We don't have anything scheduled. The best way to put it is there's nothing on the calendar for the two parties to get together anytime soon, which, we're kind of in this time period where it seems like something has to be resolved before too long. There was a 60-day window put out by President Trump, albeit nobody really knows when that started or when that ends. But nonetheless, there's been this continued confusion when trying to look at this whole issue, and Iran probably feels it as well, but the public perception, the information we're getting on the outside is it's either complete dismantlement of the Iranian nuclear program one week, and then the next week or maybe a monitoring program like JCPOA. And the Iranian pushback from day one in speaking with this administration has been, you guys change up what you want every 4 years. We can't keep track. So we need something more. We need to trust you, quite frankly, is what they're saying. And look, from the outside looking in, I get it right now because it doesn't seem like we have a cohesive, coherent message that we're bringing forward. Maybe it's happening behind closed doors. It's not really happening in the public. Just today, in an interview with Kristen Welker, President Trump said he was on board with total dismantlement. Yes, that is all I would accept, he said. Quote, I want Iran to be really successful, really great, really fantastic. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon because the world will be destroyed. And this gets into the challenge here is this question of what to do with Iran kind of transcends political ideologies here in the United States. I would say there's more Iran hawks on the right, but it's not like it's split between people on the right that want to go to war with Iran and are all on board with military action today, and then you get over to the left and it's all about negotiating some sort of settlement. It's not that clean. So even inside of the administration, what we see right now is, starting with Trump, he has historically been pretty hawkish towards Iran. Remember, his argument for tearing up the JCPOA, the first Iran nuclear deal, was that it wasn't strong enough. And it was weak, and it allowed Iran to continue building towards a nuclear weapon. Now, he was taking the hawkish approach to that. We could argue whether or not that ended up being effective long-term, but something that you cannot argue is that he did carry out a strike that killed Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad. People thought that that was going to be World War III. The world was going to go on fire. This is the guy in charge of the Iranian IRGC, leading their proxy forces across the Middle East, a major figure in the Iranian axis of resistance. And Trump's that strike was ballsy. And we were waiting for a significant retaliation that kind of came, right? They launched some missiles at U.S. bases, but nothing like where it could have gone. So you have that aspect of Trump historically being relatively hawkish. But then you get into the administration, and I should mention, in that same camp would be Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and former National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, now UN ambassador. Not clear who's going to back him, but that camp tends to be more hawkish, talking about, yes, we should carry out some sort of military strike. Total dismantlement of the Iranian nuclear program is necessary. On the other side, we have people like J.D. Vance, the vice president, Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, even Steve Witkoff, the special envoy to these negotiations, that have recently been talking about how no more war. We do not need any more military interventions. We need to find some way to talk through this. We just cannot be getting into another conflict. That's at the highest levels of the U.S. government disagreement on how to move forward with this specific issue. That's not all that normal. So it's very hard to say right now exactly where this thing is going to come down. And then you have somebody like Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who I would say historically has been more hawkish, more in line with complete dismantlement of the Iranian nuclear program. But recently, and maybe it's just because of his role as Secretary of State, he's been really pushing more and more about a negotiated settlement, some sort of JCPOA. He doesn't use those words, but similar to what Witkoff has been pushing. Either way, it's like flip a coin, honestly. We could wake up next week and find out the United States has completely removed military assets from the Middle East because we want nothing to do with war with Iran. You could, at the same time, wake up to find out we've got B-2s striking targets in Tehran. It is roll the dice right now. Now, this raises the question of, could Israel go it alone? Yes and no. So a couple of reasons they probably won't. The first is that Netanyahu probably doesn't want to cross Trump that directly right now. Clearly, this negotiation with Iran is a big part of Trump's foreign policy agenda. If Netanyahu was to go in right now and start striking Iranian nuclear sites, it undermines that entire thing. So politically, it doesn't seem like, and Netanyahu's getting a lot of what he wants out of the United States right now. And we're getting ready to see a new Gaza offensive take place. Probably going to see the U.S. pretty hands-off in that situation. Seems like we've been shipping any weapons they want, no questions asked. So if you're Netanyahu, probably no reason to rock that cart right now and maybe wait to see how this plays out. Now, if the United States and Israel were to participate jointly in this, there's kind of three different ways it could play out very broadly. You have a joint U.S. and Israel offensive action into Israel. You have where the U.S. maybe provides refueling, maybe some intel, and possibly defensive actions to help protect Israel in the event of an Iranian counterattack. And then the third one, again, if the United States were to participate at all, would be simply defensive, helping to shoot down incoming Iranian drones and missiles following the Israeli attack. Any one of those requires significant coordination with the United States ahead of time and could not be done very well at the drop of a hat. So yes, Israel could go about it on its own, would be risky in more ways than one. Which brings up, maybe there's a covert option or something under the radar, because this has been a shadow war forever between Israel and Iran, and that might be what's happening. Look, there's no evidence to support this right now, but my God, everything is on fire in Iran. I mean, according to Command 11, they said, quote, either Iran's security structure is collapsing or someone is blowing stuff up. This week has seen explosions and fires in Bandar Abbas, Karaj, Natanz, and now Mashhad. My apologies in those pronunciations. It's wild. Like the number of videos and pictures coming out of Iran of massive fires. Again, fires happen, doesn't automatically mean that there was sabotage or something like that, but it's odd that so many are happening so quickly. All we know right now is one was at a port facility, one was at a motorcycle assembly plant, and there's at least one warehouse. I've seen speculation that some of these were maybe used for other things, like maybe the motorcycle assembly plant also had rocket boosters manufactured there. Haven't seen any confirmation of that, but nonetheless, there's a lot of things burning in Iran right now, right as the threats are kind of increasing across the board. So this is something we're going to have to keep an eye on. That's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.